everyone. For this project, Caitlin and I decided to research the effects of COVID-19 on workplace training. We are excited to share our research and recommendations with you. I will hand it off to Caitlin to discuss the current status of the workplace.
To understand how COVID-19 has affected workplace education, we first need to understand how it has affected workplaces in general. In March, businesses across the country implemented mass work from home orders or suspended their operations entirely, which resulted in massive staff reductions. According to CNN, during the month of April, approximately 30 million Americans, or 18% of the workforce, filed for unemployment. Even though some businesses are beginning to reopen with new health guidelines, many companies have adopted a no going back attitude. For example, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Square have all made shifts to extend or permanently implement working from home. This is a predictive indicator that many other companies may follow suit and push to transition the majority of their workforces to a permanent remote status. Therefore, workplace education is likely to rely more and more on digital platforms, and workplace trainers will have to level up their technology skills and seek alternative training methods.
COVID-19 in real life. Caitlin and I were fortunate enough to discuss how COVID-19 has impacted the work of several workplace trainers to gain firsthand insights. We were able to interview trainers from Insight Global, Apple, Silicon Valley Bank, and Salesforce. We interviewed trainers to discuss pre-COVID training goals and programs, and then discussed how training has changed as a result of COVID-19. We were able to ask about their future plans and current struggles. All of the training programs were in person originally and experienced a few weeks of downtime while the trainers worked to convert the programs online. Now all of the trainers are using Zoom, WebEx, or Google Meet to conduct their trainings and are trying to incorporate games, role plays, and Q&A to promote engagement. All 4 of the trainers interviewed mentioned concerns of connection, engagement, company culture, and the unknown future. In speaking with Grace from Insight Global, we learned that most of the employees did not have laptops prior to COVID-19. We were surprised that a company as large as Insight Global did not offer transportable laptops to employees. Grace also shared that they downsized their training programs online from 15 to 4 people and found this to be very successful. Next, we spoke with Mary Kay at Apple and were impressed with their strategy to offer multiple training sessions in the same week to accommodate for the employees' work from home environment with new distractions like kids and pets. Jim at Silicon Valley Bank shared that he is very concerned about how his online trainings will affect company culture and is worried about missing the informal learning opportunities that are now no longer taking place in person at the office. Lastly, Jen at Salesforce shared that they tried to promote virtual coffee breaks and happy hours, but it did not gain enough popularity among the trainees, so they stopped. Now I'll hand it off to Caitlin to discuss additional training trends.
Every company has their own strategy for adapting training in light of COVID-19. In general, we have noticed in our research, though, that companies seem to be responding in one of 2 ways. The first response is to embrace the shift to online learning. For some companies, COVID-19 appears to be the gentle nudge that they needed to move forward in the direction that they were already heading. For example, all of our case examples demonstrated embracing distance education in some way. Specifically, Insight Global shared that this event opened their eyes to new ways of using digital training tools that they plan to continue to use once the dust has settled. The second training response is to resist the shift to online learning. Some companies, such as my own company, have put a halt to training altogether to wait out the storm. Harvard Business Review described during times of crisis, companies tend to have a knee-jerk reaction to double down on revenue-generating initiatives, grinding learning initiatives to a screeching halt. In my company's situation, this halt on learning was due to technological constraints, specifically our lack of organization-wide LMS system. But in many other companies, it could be due to financial constraints.
New issues arise. Concerns of engagement and interaction, virtual connections, and the quality of their online training programs were a result of utilizing or experimenting with new technologies and their learn by doing approach, as none of the trainers had previous experience in online learning. According to an article by the Harvard Business Review, the effects of COVID-19 will likely lead to a changed world. Forbes reported that we will need to use this time to gauge and measure the effectiveness of online training programs to continue to innovate. Programs that simply include a PowerPoint and audio are not enough. Learning cannot be stagnant. Corporations need to raise the standards of trainers and create programs that are engaging, of high quality, and worthwhile for employees.
So how have we been doing? Harvard Business Review suggests that in many workplaces, the transition to digital training was merely a Band-Aid or a temporary fix until businesses could go back to normal. Our interview revealed that Apple had a similar mindset, who said the digital changes that they made were only in place until they could resume their regular training. What remains unclear, however, is when businesses and workplace education will be able to return to normal, if at all. While hasty transitions are understandable despite the circumstances, it is possible that companies who are making an effort to upskill workplace trainers will be more set up for success in the long run. There are many online resources available to trainers who are informally looking to upskill. For example, the e-learning guild offered some helpful do's and don'ts of making the shift to distance learning in workplaces. They recommend trainers to keep in mind that learning is situated, and the situation of workplace learning has, of course, been altered due to the pandemic.
Now for our first recommendation. Virtual training is not going anywhere anytime soon. We recommend that corporate trainers take a step back and reflect over the past 3 months to evaluate how their online training programs compare to their prior in-person training programs. Caitlin and I discovered that most corporate trainers moved too quickly and did not take the time needed to plan and implement an entire in-person training online. First, we recommend inventorying your assets, as described by Bozarth. We recommend inventorying all assets involved in an in-person training to see if your online program is missing key materials, including presentations, handouts, and activities. Second, we recommend analyzing how corporate processes, policies, and goals may have changed as a result of the impacts of COVID-19 to determine the new learner needs and outcomes. It is likely that learner needs have changed as a result of the new work-from-home environment. Training programs most likely need to update their intended outcomes as many business functions may have been transformed. Davis et al. Discusses the infrastructure needed to support excellence in online learning. Given the new workplace environment, changing needs, and company goals, we recommend that trainers take a step back to gain a greater understanding and find a learning management system that supports success online. Trainers must also find a learning management system that can support all of the training assets discussed previously.
The digital divide occurred as a result of the digital era. Robinson et al. Explored how digital inequality exists in society, including how small businesses and entrepreneurs tend to fall on the wrong side of the digital divide. What stood out to us was how Insight Global didn't have appropriate technologies such as laptops for their associates prior to the pandemic. While research is split about whether or not COVID-19 will exacerbate or relieve the digital divide, we believe that workplace educators can have a proactive stance in addressing it. Adult educators could play a pivotal role in closing the digital divide by addressing digital inequality in the workplace. Adult Education Quarterly stated that 75% of adult educators are related to workplace education, so we could have a huge impact in closing the gap. Here are 3 things that workplace educators could do to address the digital divide. First, acknowledge it. Robinson et al. Explains that research on digital inequality is scarce, so take the time to look for digital inequality in your workplace and talk about it with your organizational leaders. Second, own it. Find creative ways to utilize technology you do have and make it accessible. For example, 81% of Americans have a smartphone, so utilizing some of eLearning Guild's tips for M-learning could be a great way to reach workplace learners. Third, change it. Involve multiple sectors by writing to politicians or applying for grants. Also, take the time to build workshops that intentionally upskill your workplace learners in technology. Davis et al. Explains that learning digital skills takes time, so be supportive of their growth.
Lastly, from our research, it was apparent that trainers are having trouble implementing in-person relationship building online. Most are concerned with the effects this will have on new hires and employees who will feel disconnected and isolated. We recommend a strong trainer-trainee relationship as described by Anderson. This will ensure your training program stimulates growth and critical thinking, occurs in a supportive, structured environment, and promotes interaction with the trainer, other trainees, and training material. In addition, we recommend creating a learning community as described by Marilyn Young. Learning communities will help to create workplace relationships because it allows learners to gather in small groups, create support networks, socialize in meaningful ways, and provides an environment of trust and respect. Lastly, we recommend incorporating games to make training fun. Bring positive emotions and laughter into your online programs. According to Hurst and Thomas, research has suggested simulations or web-based games have proven to be a highly effective way to learn by doing with team members. This idea of online teaming is another great way to have fun while building workplace relationships.
We hope you have enjoyed our presentation. Thank you so much for watching. Please see our references attached.